Stop trying to fix that person. Stop trying to understand why they can look you in the eyes. Lie to your face, walk away, and sleep soundly that same night. You've spent years looking for childhood trauma, a psychological explanation, a repressed event that would justify their behavior. There isn't one, and that is exactly where the mistake that is draining your energy lies. You are trying to decipher, with the yardstick of a human being with a soul, the behavior of someone who perhaps isn't operating on the same internal gears as you. What if I told you that Dolores Cannon, one of the greatest hypnotherapists of the last century, spent decades collecting accounts in thousands of deep regression sessions about a category of individuals who walk among us, occupy bodies, fulfill social roles, but do not carry the same essence that you do? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 5 signs she mapped out. Silent signs, almost invisible to those who don't know how to look. And when you recognize the first one in someone in your circle, you will no longer be able to unsee it. Throughout her life, Dolores Cannon developed a technique called quantum healing hypnosis technique, or QHHT. Her method was different. She wasn't interested in making the client remember their childhood. She would lead the person to a state of consciousness far below dreaming, a zone where the rational mind sleeps and something deeper begins to speak. And in that territory, session after session, with people who didn't know each other, in different cities, in different decades, she began to receive the same information, repeated with a coherence that gave her chills. The Earth, these accounts said, is a school, a dense space, designed to accelerate the learning of consciousness through pain, contrast, and relationships. But a school has students in different grades, and there are also people wandering the courtyard who aren't students at all. Cannon began to describe that not all human bodies house the same thing inside. Some carry old, veteran, wise souls. Others carry young souls, eager for experience. And there is a third category, rarer and more disturbing, which she began to call with great caution, individuals without authentic spiritual essence. Complete human bodies, functional, intelligent, with careers, families, and LinkedIn histories, but without that which makes a human being on the inside. Before your rational mind locks up, breathe. I am not asking you to believe in anything. I'm asking you to observe patterns, because if the description of these patterns matches the description of the person who has been keeping you up at night for months, perhaps you aren't dealing with someone difficult. Perhaps you are dealing with something structurally different, and that difference explains why none of your strategies, none of your conversations, none of your nights crying into your pillow managed to touch the core of that person. You are trying to heat up something that has no internal fireplace, and that is what the next 5 signs are about. The first sign, the quietest and most devastating one, is the absence of true empathy. Pay close attention to the word true, because it changes everything. These people are not cold. They do not walk around huffing with rage. Often, quite the contrary, they are friendly, sociable. They say the right things at the right moments. They text you on your birthday. They cry at funerals. They hug you when you receive a diagnosis. The gesture is flawless. The script is perfect. But if you close your eyes and feel, you realize that there is nobody home behind that gesture. It is like a rehearsed actor. The word arrives, but the vibration does not come with it. Dolores Cannon described this as mimicked empathy, a learned catalogue of social behaviors that the individual copied by observing others throughout their entire life, testing what works, filing away the reactions that generate approval. It is like someone who studied the manual on how to be human very well, but was never human on the inside. Have you ever lived through that scene? You tell someone about a huge tragedy, a loss, a betrayal, a layoff. The person responds with all the correct phrases. Wow, I can only imagine how you're feeling. I'm here for you. That is so unfair. And yet, when you hang up the phone, you feel emptier than you did before you called. You feel a slight confusion. Shouldn't I be feeling better? But you aren't. You are feeling worse. This is not you being dramatic. This is your field sensing the absence of resonance. The words were exchanged, but no real emotion crossed the wire. And your unconscious, which is much older and wiser than your rational part, registered the void. It knows. It always knew. The problem is that your head keeps trying to convince your body that, no, they are a good person, they said all the right things. And while this internal fight rages on, You bleed silently in the relationship. The second sign is the strange, almost alien relationship these people have with truth and lies. For someone with an awakened spiritual essence, lying carries weight. There is physical discomfort, a tightness in the chest, a difficulty in looking someone in the eye, an emotional residue that lingers for days, weeks. A lie scratches from within. This is not religious morality. It is an energetic signature. The nervous system of those who have a soul recognizes a lie as a dissonance, a noise within their own body. For these individuals that Dolores Cannon describes, however, truth has no weight. It has no gravity. It is merely a tool, a gear that can be used when convenient and discarded when it gets in the way. If telling the truth brings an advantage, they tell the truth. If telling a lie brings an advantage, they tell the lie. If telling a half-truth is even more efficient, that is what they do. And most disturbingly, without any physical sign whatsoever. No shift in gaze, no hesitation in their voice, no residue afterward. You leave the conversation swearing that it was all true, only to discover 3 weeks later that every word was designed, millimetrically, to produce a specific reaction in you. And this is where these people become the most efficient manipulators on the planet. They are not lying with effort, like an ordinary human being who tries to lie and slips up. They are simply constructing the version of reality that serves the objective of the moment. They adapt the story to the audience. They tell one version to their mother, another to their partner, another to their boss, another to their friend. And they don't lose any sleep over it, because there is no internal moral center complaining. It's like asking a calculator to feel ashamed of the result. The gears were not designed for that. And when you begin to notice these inconsistencies, when you start to put the pieces together and present the evidence, that is when you encounter the other bizarre phenomenon. They do not confess. They rewrite. They look you in the eye and say that you misunderstood, that you are confusing things, that your memory is failing. You start to doubt your own sanity. Welcome to the territory of gaslighting on an industrial scale. And in the end, you are left with the emotional trail. They move on, light-hearted like someone washing their hands of a matter. The third sign is an energetic dynamic that Dolores Cannon described with a word that scares many people: parasitic. And this needs to be understood carefully because it is not an accusation, it is a mechanic. These individuals, according to reports from sessions, cannot generate emotional and spiritual energy from the inside out. They cannot produce their own light. So they extract. They extract silently, in a sophisticated way, without you noticing the drain at the time. And the pattern is almost always the same. At the beginning of the bond, it is maximum intensity. You are the most special person in the world. You are the soulmate they have waited for their whole life. You are the best friend they have never had. The messages are constant. The compliments are superlative. The interest in you is obsessive. You feel, for the first time in a long time, truly seen, truly chosen. Except that is not recognition. That is scanning. The person is mapping your fissures, your fears, your dreams, your buttons. They are drawing the key that opens your door, and the moment you hand over your heart, the picture changes, the tone lowers, the interest withers. The frequency of the messages drops. Small criticisms begin, contempt disguised as a joke, long silences that make you run after them, episodes of heat followed by cold. It is the cycle that trauma therapists call intermittent reinforcement, and which Dolores Cannon described as the method by which the parasitic structure keeps the food source trapped. Because, you see, when affection is constant, you are satisfied. When affection is intermittent, you remain in a state of chronic waiting. And the state of chronic waiting generates exactly the type of dense, anxious, obsessive emotional energy that these people feed on. You wake up thinking about them. You sleep thinking about them. Your mental field is entirely occupied by them. And at the end of the month, you look in the mirror and do not recognize yourself. You have lost weight, lost focus, lost your glow. They, on the other hand, are fine. They have never been better. The fuel is being transferred, and you are the matrix being emptied. The fourth sign is perhaps the most frustrating for those who try to save these people, and Dolores Cannon insisted on it quite a bit: the absence of any real spiritual transformation. Have you seen this scene? The person reads the books, attends retreats, does family constellation, holistic therapy, white table spiritism, Kambo, ayahuasca, Vipassana meditation. They know all the terms. They quote Eckhart Tolle at dinner. They talk about the higher self, about cutting energetic cords, about the shadow. They appear to be spiritually sophisticated, almost more advanced than you. But beneath the perfect discourse, the behavior is exactly the same as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They continue cheating, manipulating, playing the victim, blaming others, avoiding responsibility, draining anyone who gets close. Nothing changes at the core. The aesthetic changes, the vocabulary changes, the profile picture changes, the center remains frozen. This happens because, according to the accounts Canon compiled, spiritual evolution is not the accumulation of information, it is the digestion of experience. It is taking a pain, sitting with it, being crushed by it, and emerging on the other side with a different internal frequency. A human being with an awakened essence does this, even without therapy, even without formal spirituality. Life hits them, and they change from within. It is organic. The individuals Dolores described, however, seem incapable of completing this digestive cycle. The experience enters and exits like food, passing through the intestines without being absorbed. They can go through absurd ruptures, painful losses, public humiliations, moments that would break anyone inside, and the next day they are performing the same version of themselves, with the same patterns, the same triggers, the same repertoire. As if the experience had not happened on an internal level, as if the deep emotional record were turned off. And this is what makes any attempt of yours to help this person grow a doomed attempt. You are trying to plant seeds in ground that does not absorb water. It is not your failure, it is the geology of the terrain. The fifth sign completes the puzzle, and is the most painful to accept when you are already entangled with someone like this: the inability to establish authentic emotional connections. And again, pay attention to the word authentic. These people can indeed form bonds. They marry, have children, have friends, have business partners. But if you look closely at the architecture of these bonds, you realize there is no real intimacy. There is utility, there is possession, there is status, there is convenience. The romantic partner is chosen for their beauty, their money, their social access, their capacity to serve as a mirror for the ego. Children are seen as an extension of one's own image. Friends are chosen for strategic advantage. There is no real vulnerability in saying, "I don't know, I'm afraid, I need you." There is no shared silence that only two souls know how to sustain. There is no such sensation, when you look at the other, of looking through a window into an entire universe. There is a well-crafted surface and nothing underneath. Have you ever been with someone like that? That relationship where even while together you felt alone. You shared a bed, you shared the bills, you shared vacation plans, but you never shared that deep silence, the one where two beings recognize each other. You tried deeper conversations, and they would slip away. You tried vulnerability, and it was ignored or used against you later. You tried to create rituals of intimacy, and the other person reacted with discomfort, with scorn, with avoidance. And the cruelest part, you started to doubt your own capacity to love. You started to wonder if the problem was you, if you were asking for too much, if this whole deep connection thing was something you invented. It wasn't. It never was. What was missing was on the other side, not yours. You were trying to make love with someone who has the hardware to love, but doesn't have the software installed, and no matter how much you force compatibility, the system simply won't run. Now, reaching this point in the video, it is natural that you are feeling a mixture of things. Perhaps relief because someone finally named what you lived through, perhaps anger because you identified specific people in each of these 5 signs, perhaps fear because you are thinking, "My God, what if I am that person?" Breathe. If you are wondering if it's you, it probably isn't. That very question, that very discomfort, is a sign of an awakened consciousness. Individuals without essence do not spend sleepless nights wondering if they are hurting someone. They sleep. You don't. That is the difference. And this is where the final message of Dolores Cannon becomes very important. because she always insisted that the goal of this knowledge is not to create paranoia, not to go hunting for soulless people around the world, not to label everyone who disappointed you as an spiritually empty being. The goal is discernment, and discernment is different from judgment. Judgment is closing your heart and pointing fingers. Discernment is opening your eyes and choosing where to invest your energy. You don't need to expose these people, denounce them or scream at them. You need to silently remove your field from theirs. You need to reduce access. You need to stop giving away intimate information. You need to stop expecting from them what they structurally cannot deliver. A dry faucet isn't going to start gushing water just because you cried underneath it. It is dry. Accepting the nature of the source is the first act of spiritual sanity. And at the same time, you begin to redirect your energy toward the bonds that carry real resonance. The people with whom silence is comfortable. The people who listen without preparing their response. The people who return to you without effort, the same frequency you emanate. They exist. You have already bumped into a few. Perhaps you didn't invest in them because you were too busy trying to be approved by those who didn't see you. Protecting your energy at the end of the day isn't about building thick walls against the world. It's about developing the fine sensitivity to recognize in seconds when an encounter adds to you and when an encounter subtracts from you. You know, your body knows. That slight drop in your stomach when a certain person's name appears on your phone. That is not baseless anxiety. That is data. That inexplicable exhaustion after an hour with a certain person. That is not a lack of coffee. That is a drain. That feeling of shrinking near someone, that is not your insecurity. That is your field contracting out of a preservation instinct. You have within you one of the most sophisticated reading systems in the universe. It is called intuition. And it has never been wrong. Who was wrong was your rational side, which insisted on ignoring what your body had already diagnosed. You can close this video now, go about your routine, and tomorrow morning wake up and send a message to that person, again with the hope that this time it will be different. It won't. Their internal mechanism is the same gear as yesterday's, last year's, the last decade's. Or you can close this video, sit in silence for a few minutes, let the information sink in, and make a decision that your soul has been asking of you for a long time. Reduce access. Reorganize your circle. Return to inhabiting your own body. Trust for the first time in a long while what your intuition already knew. Dolores Cannon didn't leave this knowledge to make you afraid of the world. She left it to return you to the center of your own field. The world does indeed have individuals who operate on a different frequency. But the world also has, and in much greater numbers, beings who are whole, alight, ready to recognize you. The problem was never the existence of the former. The problem was how much of your time you spent trying to be loved by them. Enough. Now you know how to see, and those who know how to see choose, they decide.